I'm so in love with Lauren Groff's new novel, Matrix. It is about Marie de France, who was supposedly the half-sister of Henry II. All that's really known about Marie de France is that she was this 12th century poet, perhaps the first female francophone poet in history. Very little is known about her outside of that, but the fact that she was bilingual spoke to a kind of aristocratic upbringing, and Groff really takes this ball and runs with it. So the story opens in 1158. Marie de France is being dispatched to this tiny little rundown abbey that has no money in the country. She is 17 years old. She's very tall. She's very broad, spoken of in very ungainly ways, and she is obsessed with Eleanor of Aquitaine. But because Marie is Henry's half-sister, Eleanor essentially banishes her from the court, sending her to this nunnery to be the prioress of all these old women, to live a life of complete chastity, probably complete poverty. When Marie arrives there, she finds these women essentially starving because the abbess who looks after the place basically hasn't called in any of the debts that the abbey has. So Marie starts composing lays to the court, to Eleanor, to Henry, to try and win their favor, and she is met with complete silence, and so she becomes angry and bitter, and most importantly, determined. She gets to a point where she finally accepts her fate, and she vows to, quote, make those who cast her out sorry for what they've done. One day they will see the majesty she holds within herself and feel awe. And so the novel then traces the rest of her life, the next 50 years, taking this abbey from this rundown, broke, disgusting place into the most profitable abbey in all of England. And what starts out as a place that she resents becomes a place that she really defends, and she takes steps to start protecting her, quote, island of women from any and all external threats. What I really didn't expect from this novel, but what I really loved about it, was its examination of like the addictiveness of power, and how the power that Marie soon holds is completely incompatible with this life of faith and celibacy that she is supposed to live. Marie, I think, is given some modern artistic license in this story. She has no time for like the abasement required of her as a woman from the church. She takes pride in her work. She starts getting what she thinks are visions and messages from God, which seem to defend her growing esteem and confidence and self-defined place in the world. She literally constructs a labyrinth around the abbey to make this place like impregnable from outsiders. As a woman, she starts saying mass, which is sacrilegious. As a woman, she starts taking confession, which is sacrilegious. And even though Marie has been sent away to this celibate nunnery for the rest of her life, this novel is a lot sexier than you might expect it to be. Sexy might not be the right word. Sensuality might be a better word. This is a really remarkable novel. It's I think completely unexpected. It's profound. It has some really kind of transcendental truths, I think. It's a book about power and pride and community and faith and love and sex and femininity and sisterhood. And I loved it. I absolutely loved this book. And make no mistake, this is a book about women and for women. Groff actually dedicates the book at the front to all my sisters. There's not a single man who is mentioned in any detail whatsoever, and when a man's name actually comes up, it's only in relation to a woman. So this is a book pretty much about women living only with other women, and all the friendship and sex and even romance that just will naturally come out of that, and that happens at a convent in 1158. That is such wonderful, fertile ground for a story. This is an enchanting book. I think this is an intriguing book. I think it is an absorbing book. It is such a wonderful book to just suck you into. You will love being there, as bleak as it often seems. I think it's a book that makes very clear the power that women inherently have. Like, regardless of the era that you're telling a story, women are powerful whether or not they've been painted that way. This is a book about sisterhood and the church, but it's also a book about love and war. Marie de France is essentially this like warlike poet nun. She's fucking awesome. I have seen some reviews on Goodreads and things like that of some people not enjoying Marie's visions from God, or kind of thinking that those were a little bit confusing. I could not disagree more. I thought they were wonderful and so weird. Given this monumental task, given where she was placed, given that this was essentially a punishment, the fact that she gets to a point where she thinks she is hearing the voice of God telling her to protect these women who are now in her care, which then stirs up this kind of elevated sense of self, stirs up all this trouble in and around the Abbey, because a woman like her at this time should not have power, and she is determined to get whatever she can because she thinks she deserves it, and the people she's taking care of deserve it. They deserve fucking dignity. She challenges political law. She challenges the church. She challenges like social structures, seemingly at a certain point because she just enjoys fucking with all these people. And I think maybe what's really interesting about this story, when you kind of pull back on it, this isn't really discussed in the book because it's too meta, but feminism was not a thing at this time. That wasn't a word, that wasn't a concept, that wasn't something people were striving for at all. And yet she is someone who is embodying it in such a strong way. She is someone who understands the power of reputation and how people think of you and how people are told to think of you. Now just listen to this quick little passage which describes Marie's attitude towards people who tried to attack her abbey. Before she leaves, she pulls off the hoods one by one and stares grimly down. She wants her face to be the thing remembered when they think upon their deathbeds of their most grievous sins. Oh! God, this book is so good. I think thematically what Groff is really getting at here, because this is such a like departure for her, like content-wise from everything that she's done before, trying to like fit it within her oeuvre, if you will, to find out why she wrote this book, why she thought it was important, what she's trying to say here, why she thought it was necessary to write a book about a 12th century convent. I think my take on it is that I think she found it fascinating to write about a place where women are told to be this very cloistered, perfect thing where you do what you are told and you don't make mistakes and you just abase yourself to the law and, you know, the people who tell you who to be, how to act, where to live, what you can't feel, what you can't do. And so she wrote a book about these women of God who ultimately are just people of the earth. They are normal people. I think Matrix really exposes the complexity and tragedy of being a woman in a world where men make all the rules. And sadly, that has pretty much the same impact in 2021 as it did in 1158. In 1158. Ugh, it's so good. Read it. Please read it. If any of this sounded interesting to you, read it. I promise you it's phenomenal. This is one of the best books I've read this year for sure. This is like just an absolute 5-star book. I absolutely loved this. As always, thank you so much for watching. My name is Rick McDonnell, and I'll see you in a couple days. Bye.